You think you understand women until one moment leaves you speechless. I was sitting across from a 92-year-old woman, expecting polite conversation. But instead, she said one sentence that shattered me. Not with anger, not with judgment, but with truth. The kind that cuts straight through all the stories we tell ourselves as men. If a woman stops desiring you, it's not because she's changed. It's because she hasn't felt truly seen in a long, long time. That hit harder than I expected, and maybe you've felt it too. Have you ever noticed her pull away slowly? Not all at once, but over time. The warmth fades, the closeness goes quiet. You're still together, but it feels like something's missing, and you don't know how to fix it. This isn't just another video about women. It's a wake-up call. Because once you hear what I learned that day, you won't see your relationship or her heart the same again. Stick with me. The truth might hurt, but it could also save everything. Most men carry a quiet belief. If she loves me, she'll always want me. But love doesn't work like that. Desire fades when a woman feels emotionally alone, even if she still loves you. You might think things are fine. You live together, you share responsibilities. Maybe there's no fighting, but that's the trap. Routine starts looking like stability. Comfort starts replacing connection. And one day, you realize the spark is gone, and you don't even know when it happened. Let me ask you something. When was the last time she looked at you like she used to? Not just glanced your way. I mean really looked, like you were the only man in the room. Do you still know what lights her up inside? Or have you stopped asking because you assumed she'd always be there? Here's the truth. Women rarely walk away all at once. They walk in layers, emotionally, mentally, and then physically. And most men don't even notice until it's too late. Not because we're heartless, but because we were never taught what to look for. What I learned from that 92-year-old woman exposed a blind spot every man needs to face before the woman he loves becomes a stranger sleeping beside him. Most women won't tell you outright, "I feel invisible." They won't announce that they're aching to be noticed. They just grow quieter, less playful, less affectionate. They pull back, not to punish you, but to protect what's left of their heart. You might think everything's fine. You're providing, fixing things around the house, being present. But here's the question. You bring her groceries, but do you bring her attention? A woman doesn't just want to be helped. She wants to be seen. Seen for who she is, not just what she does. When she shares a small detail about her day and you barely react, when she puts effort into how she looks and you don't notice, she doesn't get angry. She just tells herself, maybe I don't matter as much anymore. One afternoon, that 92-year-old woman said to me, "A woman's silence is rarely emptiness. It's usually a storm trying to stay calm." That line hit me like lightning, because behind most withdrawn women is a history of unmet emotional needs. Not big betrayals, just a long pattern of not being noticed. And eventually, she stops trying. She doesn't want perfection. She just wants to feel emotionally safe, to know that who she is still reaches you. Not just her body, but her presence, her spirit, her truth. He'd been married for over 20 years. No big fights, no infidelity. To the outside world, everything looked stable. But behind closed doors, it was quiet. Not peaceful quiet, distant quiet. The kind where dinner gets made, bills get paid, but no one's looking at each other in the eye anymore. They didn't argue, but they also didn't laugh like they used to. No more late-night conversations, no more spontaneous touches, no more spark. He told me she just doesn't seem interested anymore. And when I asked, "When was the last time you really asked her how she's feeling?" he paused. Not because he didn't care, but because it had been years since he thought to ask. Here's what he didn't see. Routine had replaced curiosity. Comfort had smothered connection. And slowly, without meaning to, they'd become roommates instead of lovers. The physical distance wasn't rejection, it was resignation. Not because she stopped loving him, but because she stopped feeling emotionally fed. If she stopped reaching for you, it's not because she's cold. It's because she's emotionally tired. She's tired of giving without feeling received. Attraction doesn't die in one dramatic moment. It dies in the little things left undone. The compliment never said. The glance not given. The silence that grew and grew until it filled the room. Intimacy fades not in chaos, but in quiet neglect. And by the time most men notice, she's already built walls around her heart just to feel safe. It happened on a quiet afternoon. We were sitting on an old porch swing, just the two of us. She was 92, widowed for almost a decade, and carried a calm that made you want to listen. I asked her gently, "What keeps love alive for a woman? After the years, the changes, the silence?" She looked into the distance for a long moment, then said, "If a woman stops desiring you, it's never sudden. It's because she hasn't felt deeply seen in a very long time." I wasn't expecting that. It hit harder than any breakup I'd ever been through, because I realized desire doesn't disappear because of aging or routine. It disappears when a woman stops feeling emotionally visible. She doesn't lose interest. She loses the feeling that you're interested in her essence, her thoughts, her soul. And when that happens, physical closeness becomes a risk, not a reward. What most men don't understand is this. When a woman no longer feels emotionally recognized, her body follows, not out of punishment, but protection. She's not pushing you away, she's protecting herself from feeling empty during closeness. She wants to feel chosen again, not for what she does, but for who she is. And then the woman said something I'll never forget. Your job isn't to impress her. It's to witness her, fully. Let that sink in. She doesn't want more money, more charm, more flowers. She wants to feel like her presence still moves you. Not occasionally, but deeply. That's what makes her crave closeness, not because she should, but because she wants to. She doesn't leave with a door slam. She leaves with silence. It starts small, so small you might not even catch it. She used to tell you about the weird thing her coworker said. Now, she just shrugs and says, "It's fine." She used to laugh at your jokes, not out of politeness, but because she was in it with you. Now her smile feels delayed, a second too late, a little too thin. She still touches you, maybe, but there's hesitation in it. Not rejection, just guardedness, a soft wall you didn't even notice went up. You didn't cheat, you didn't yell, so you tell yourself everything's okay. But it's not, because here's the truth. You didn't mean to make her feel invisible, but you did, not by one action, but by 1,000 missed moments. The way you barely looked up when she walked in. The time she opened up and you gave her a solution instead of presence. This isn't about blame. It's about awareness. Because once you see it, you can choose differently. But if you keep ignoring the signs, one day she won't just stop sharing stories. She'll stop seeing you as someone she wants to share life with.
You don't have to beg. You don't have to chase. You don't need grand gestures or dramatic confessions. If you want to reconnect with her, start small. Start with presence. 1. Emotional presence is more powerful than fixing. When she talks, don't rush to offer advice. Don't fill every silence with noise. Just be there. Sometimes what she really wants is for you to feel what she's feeling, not solve it. Let the silence after her words breathe, because that space tells her you matter enough for me to pause. 2. Affection without outcome. Touch her in the quiet moments, not just when you want more. A gentle hand on her shoulder while she cooks, a forehead kiss before she even opens her eyes in the morning. A hug that lingers, not because you need something, but because you see her. Touch her like you want her soul to feel safe. That's the kind of touch she remembers. That's the kind of touch that reawakens trust. 3. Verbal validation that sees beneath the surface. Don't just say, "You're beautiful." Say, "I love how strong you are, even when life feels heavy." Say, "You inspire me, not just as my partner, but as a human." Let your words reflect that you notice the parts of her no one else sees. Because when she feels emotionally safe, she doesn't pull away, she leans in. You can't reignite passion if she feels like a task. She must feel like a treasure. And that kind of love, quiet, real, and steady, is what makes her want to stay.
He was in his late 60s, married for over 3 decades. From the outside, they looked solid. But inside the house, it was quiet. Not peaceful, just hollow. They weren't fighting. They just weren't feeling each other anymore. He said, "She doesn't look at me the way she used to." And for a long time, he blamed time, blamed routine, blamed aging. But then he heard something that shifted him. You don't need to do more. You need to see her more. So he started small. Every morning, he wrote her a sentence on a sticky note, one thing he admired about her. Some days it was, "I love how you always notice what others miss." Other days, "You looked beautiful in the sunlight yesterday." He stopped asking what she needed done. He started asking what she was dreaming about lately. He reached for her hand while sipping coffee. Not to get something, just to be close. At first, nothing changed, but slowly she softened, smiled more, lingered in rooms longer, started touching him back, not out of habit, but connection. And one morning, she placed her hand on his chest and whispered, "You came back to me." That was all he needed to hear. The lesson? You don't need to be someone else. You just need to become who she hoped you'd stay. The man who saw her, chose her, and never stopped showing it. Take a breath. Because now it's your turn. What's the one small thing you can do today to make her feel deeply seen? Not fixed, not managed, seen. Maybe it's pausing to really listen, not waiting for your turn to speak. Maybe it's reaching for her hand without saying a word. Maybe it's simply telling her, "I still choose you." Because here's the truth. She doesn't need a better man. She needs the man who sees her again. The man who doesn't just love her in theory, but shows it in presence. The man who remembers who she is beneath the roles, the routines, the responsibilities. So drop it in the comments below. What will you do differently starting today? What's the one small action, real and human, that says, "I still see you"? And if this message hit something deep, don't just move on. Subscribe. Join a brotherhood of men who choose connection over control, clarity over confusion, presence over pressure. Because she hasn't stopped loving you. She's just waiting to feel loved again. And now that you know what matters most, you have the power to bring her heart back home.